recording myself. Beautiful. All right, so office shopping. I'm not going to cover every single detail of this because it's not important right this second. What the most important thing is of office shopping is having more options versus fewer. So that's really important for a number of reasons, okay? Our goal right now is just lead generation, is to create as many options and potentials right now as possible. And the reason that's important is there's going to be some that we eliminate from the jump because of location or because of price or whatever. Some is going to be like the perfect spot, but it gets leased out, between now and then. Some is, ideally is the perfect scenario, like our office shopping utopias that we have multiple offers we put in on great spaces, great locations, and we get back yeses and agreements from those, and then we get to pick and choose of those options what's the best, or even pit them against each other where we say, oh, well, we got a better deal over here for blank amount, and people are fighting for our business. What we don't want to happen is we have few options. We're kind of like stuck with what's left. It doesn't give us as much negotiating power, and like they kind of have us then, you know what I mean? So, or if that one falls through, then in March or April, we like are back to square one with looking for leads again, okay? So really what the most important thing I want you to get from our session today is right now, your goal is to have as many options in just lead generation. Even if I look at something and I think, oh, that's not the perfect location or that's not the perfect price or the goal is to write it down because that person might know a space that is a perfect fit. You guys with me? So it's kind of like getting recs from customers. You don't want them like prejudging, oh, that friend won't buy. Oh, she's like, it's like, you guys know just like I do, sometimes they're right, but a lot of times they're not. And like that person that they said wasn't going to be that good ends up being really freaking good. And you're like, I'm glad I didn't listen to them, It's kind of like brainstorming your list in training, If you started from a place of, oh, who do I know that's going to buy $2,000 worth of Cutco? Like we would have no one on our list. But if we're like, hey, who are just the people we could potentially show? Like who's anyone we know, right? So that's the goal, is because sometimes we're definitely not going to lease that space, but that person has another space or they know someone that has a space that ends up being the fit, okay? So in terms of like the goal right now, that's our first mission. We're not even looking at spaces yet. So as we get farther down the road, like your district and myself can coach you on this. But of all the things I want you guys to get from right now, like that's it, is I want you to feel really good about getting after like a big list so we can help get you the best spot and the best price and the best deal and the best terms and all that sort of stuff, okay? Couple things. The first thing here is it says on the shopping for your branch or district office, what am I looking for? So what we're essentially looking for, guys, is what we really care about is we care about the location. We want the location to be ideal, where it's nice and convenient, centrally located, like well-known area, okay? And that's going to depend on each of your markets, but we've all been in all the markets where you are, so we have a good idea of what that looks like. So what we're looking for is something that's typically like on a main highway or close to like access to a main highway. We want it in the most like populated area or like somewhere that makes sense where it's like central, where you're going to pull the most from your territory. So I'll use we're in the pilot right now, so let's use this as an example. Montgomery County is our territory. So like northern Montgomery County goes all the way to like Poolesville. You have like Gaithersburg, Germantown, right? The southern part of the county is like Bethesda, Chevy Chase, Kensington. Well, the reason I picked an office in Rockville is because Rockville is in the middle of the county, where I have some of the best recruits in Poolesville, right? And some of the best recruits in Chevy Chase, Bethesda. And so I wanted to be in the middle, because if I went all the way in Bethesda, it's going to be really hard to get the Poolsville kids. If I go all the way in Poolsville, it's going to be really hard to get the Bethesda kids. You guys with me? So it's like, if you look at and what we know about the population and like where our best zip codes are, this is centrally located. Okay, 355, right? Rockville Pike. It goes all the way through Montgomery County, right? So it's kind of like a connector for everything. 270, there's an exit, for 270 that's relatively close here to the office, right? So it's kind of off like all the main stuff. The other reason I picked this location is it's walking distance from the metro, which most places that doesn't matter, like Carroll County, not a thing, right? Harford County, not a thing. Annapolis, not a thing. Crofton, not a thing, right? But for this territory, it is a thing. So, the metro station is 2 blocks away where people can walk over to the office. You guys with me? So like if I'm running an office in Carroll County, like the main road there is 140. So we want an office that's right on 140. If we're running an office in Howard County, we want an office that's like off of like Route 40, 29, right? Like somewhere in that like main deal. The big spots there are going to be either in Ellicott City or Columbia, which are like relatively close to each other, but it's got to be one of those pockets. You guys, is this all making sense so far? So if we're looking at like an Annapolis, right, the main ones are like a 50, like 97, like you're kind of looking at the main roads and then what's off of there, and then we'll pick like, well, what's a central spot to the zip codes there? So it's probably going to be like an Annapolis, maybe a Severna Park, but right on the Annapolis like line, that like somewhere like that. Kayla and I were talking about her space. She's got part of PG and part of Anne Arundel, right? So Crofton is kind of like in the middle of where she's pulling from. So it's probably going to be like in that spot, right? She wouldn't going to go all the way to like Millersville because that would be on the far part. She doesn't want to go all the way to like Upper Marlboro because that's on the other side. Crofton's kind of like in the middle, right? In Crofton, you got like Route 3 is kind of like the main drag. So you want to be pretty relatively close to that, right? 50 is going to pull off of that, so you probably want to be like Route 3, but relatively close to like getting on 50. So do you guys like every territory kind of has this? So I'm looking at like, well, what are the main parts there? If there's like a major school we want to be close to, or like a major deal. We're not looking. The way they rate commercial office spaces is they use classes. Okay, so there's Class A space, Class B space, Class C space. So Class A is like, imagine like an immaculate, all like glass building, beautiful, like looks expensive, right? And there's probably like, either like high-end medical or like top tier, like, right? Like Google headquarter, like something like that, right? So imagine super expensive looking, super high end. That's not what we're looking for. One is it's just going to be so astronomical in terms of price that it doesn't make sense. We don't have customers coming in, so it's not necessary for what we're doing, but we do have recruits. So we're typically looking for like Class B. So like, right, one step down from like Class A, but like, does it look like we would run a vector office there? Now, it shouldn't look like sketchy, unsafe, like whatever, but it also shouldn't look like immaculate, like, that there's going to be like the Google headquarters there, okay, like the corporate office part. You guys with me? So we're looking for something that kind of looks like the offices you guys have been in, right? So like it kind of looks like North Baltimore's like, office space, has like good parking. It's on a main road right off of there, close to Towson, right? Like that's kind of what we're looking for. Rock, like office building. It's just not like, it doesn't look like Class A, all glass building, but it's like brick building, like kind of the deal. You guys tracking with me here? Lydia's office this summer, Paul, right? Kind of similar to this, like all tall brick, but it's not like, not all glass, like looks super expensive, but it's kind of like in this range, okay? Now I've also done it, like I had an office down the street and it was kind of more like, like the, almost looks like a townhouse a little bit, office buildings. I've done like ones like that before. So it might not look like one big building. It might be like the townhouse-y kind of setup, but it's like an office area, like that could be a fit. But as you guys kind of imagine what I'm describing here, so I'm probably not gonna be looking for like, right, the class A, but I'm looking for more like class B, class C, all different kinds of setups, okay? In terms of things that are important and what really matter. What really matters is having more leads versus fewer. And as we get farther into it, we'll go into like more of the criteria of what's important for shopping, like shopping for your office. So let's start with, how do I get a lot of leads, right? Where do I start looking? Where do I start generating some of those ones to work on, okay? So if you go to the next page, it's called generating leads. Where do I start? So some of it might be like, who do I know? Looking at previous Vector offices. So I have a list of like the leases we've done in the past. You can talk to people that have run an office there in the past. Most of your DMs and myself know the spaces pretty well because we've always found every space. Like Colin and Courtney helping do this for the last 9 years. So like we've shopped for like every office. Like we know most of the spots pretty well. So we can help there. Sometimes we have a good relationships and it's easy as calling back and just releasing a space with people. So sometimes it's like you might come up with all these leads and they're like, yeah, we're in the space we were last year. Well, I'd rather you have all the leads just in case, right? Like we don't want to assume we're good and then not be good, because that would not be the move there, okay? So one is you can think about like, hey, who do I know? Either previous Vector people, like who do I know in the area, to start asking questions. Almost everyone knows someone that like owns real estate, is into really, has some relationship to, like, it's just like a thing, right? Or they're familiar with some of them. So certainly asking around. 2 is you can definitely start researching online. So obviously you can even Google like Bel Air office space. So typically like Bel Air is the best spot, most populated like in Hartford County. So hey, Bel Air office space, and I can start checking it out, right? And see what links pop up, and you know how that is, and you can kind of just start surfing and checking things out. You can look on a common one is loopnet.com. That one's like for office spaces, so you can pop that in there. Craigslist can have some for a specific area, so you can check that out. Why not? Those might be more like private owners. So here's the advantage to that, is typically like, private owners. So this one's like owned by a big like corporation, right? I've never even met the people that own the building now. It's actually been sold like a number of times to different commercial real estate companies and all that sort of stuff, been passed around. So private owners, like, hey, maybe it's a smaller space, like, all right, let's say Colin's building, it's like medium size, but like that there's actual like guy invested his money, just bought it, right, is more hands-on owner. Like those are usually the more, like you're able to negotiate more for those, and those are typically the types of people, like sometimes the big commercial ones will be on Craigslist, but a lot of times that's where the private owners are going to post stuff. And that's typically like your best opportunity for the best deals, especially places like a Hagerstown and stuff like that, where it's like, ideally you find one of those private owners that like you can negotiate with. Annapolis is going to have a mixture of like commercial ones and like private owners of people that just like invest in commercial real estate and buy like some of the buildings. So you want both, right? Like on your list there. So even though Craigslist you might not like think is a great source, like a private, if I own a commercial building or whatever, I'm probably going to post on there too, in addition to other stuff. Google, check out whatever else is on there. Kayla, were you going to add something? Oh, I saw your hand raised earlier.
But you said what I was going to add.
So those are a couple of things you can start doing from wherever. Here's the best way to find office space, though, is if you can physically go to the territory and drive like the main spots, and almost every office building has a sign outside of it that says like leasing and a phone number, and that's the best way to find office spaces. So wherever I've found like the best spot, it's usually like, hey, I just get out there. Like ideal is you go with a friend, because like typically when I'm in the car with someone, like one person is driving like up and down the main drag, or like maybe off like some of the like streets right off of it, and the other person is like either writing down the info, or like I'd be like just snapping a picture of like all the leasing signs and like the outside of the building. So like then when I get back, I've got like a big list of all the spots, because there's going to be a lot that you see the leasing sign to, like when you drive by, that they might not be listed online. You're right, and then I know the location's good. So like if my spot is in like Harford County, if I have like a Saturday where I can like go, or like a Sunday where I can go to Bel Air and like go down the main streets and like right off of it, and like just boom, take all the like pictures of the leasing signs, like that's the best way to find it. When I was like helping find like Howard County the last time, it was just, I was like, boom, like dogs come in the car with me, and I like found it. He's like, oh my gosh, like you find so many. Courtney's so good at this too. It's like you just like drive and you just like find a million that are on there. Like almost every single office building has it out there. So that's one of the great ways to find spaces that may or may not be listed. And it's like in a location that you're kind of like looking for too, right? And so what you really need is like the information that's on the sign. It's typically like a name of a company. A lot of times it might have a name of a person as well, right? Or one or the other, and the phone number. And then I always make sure I know the address so I can reference on the phone, because typically they're going to have like a bunch of spots they're listing, right? So I want to say like, oh, I'm looking at the one on 416 Hungerford Drive. I saw your leasing sign out there, right? So I'm just trying to collect that information to get my leads together. Cool. We already put a Google sheet together for you guys. I shared, Connor did this for us, Connor Lugo Harris. So it's in the GroupMe this morning, and it has a tab for each of your territories down at the bottom for you to put your leads in. This way, it's real time, and your DMs can see the leads that you're putting on there, okay? So phone number, the company or property manager that's on the sign, the address or location, if there's any websites. And then as we learn more information, we'll fill in like square footage, monthly rent, like parking space. Like these are some of the things we're looking at as we go there, okay? So right now your goal is just to add as many leads from online, from going to the city, from like your goal is just to get as many as you can. Don't worry if they're good or not. Just get them on here is the first thing, and you want more versus less. Question?
No, I was gonna say, like, did you want us to do it from like people that we've seen in person, or just like online? But you said online, so. No, I mean like list it like the people that like that we see, like the leads and whatever, and you were like, yeah, you're just like whoever you find online, and I was like, okay.
Online, or you drive there and you write them down. Yeah, either one. I want you to write. Yeah.
I was confused. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We did that last. Good.
Yeah.
Any questions on that, guys?
Just a general question, but
Yeah, go for it.
I was gonna say, specifically for like a district office compared to a branch office. Obviously, branch office is a little bit smaller. So in terms of square footage, like, do you have like a general like?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But that's the most important thing from today is how do I start working on the leads? Okay. So that's the most important thing I want you guys to know how to do. Any questions on that? So there are some areas that it's going to be like, I want you to focus on getting your first 20 leads as fast as possible. And for some of you guys, 20 leads is going to be like so fast. Like you can just poke around online and you can get 20. Okay. Other territories like a Carroll County, 20 leads, like you might not get like a ton more than that. Like, cause there's only like certain spots, like we want to stay in Westminster, be on 140. But some places you can get like a gazillion, right? Like Crofton, you're going to be able to get a lot. Bel Air, you're going to be able to get a lot. Annapolis, you're going to be able to get a lot. If that's Delaware, you'll be able to get a decent amount. So you should focus on 30, 40, 50, like however many you can get, like get them on your sheet, okay? So that's the most important thing. Like you're not prejudging. Don't worry about all the perfect stuff. Like just get it down, because even if it's not that space, they might be able to help us with one that we're looking for, okay? Here's the next step of this is once we get the leads, your district manager is going to call through these leads for you if you're a first-time candidate, because we don't want to, like, ruin any, is, like, the real answer. Because, like, if we only have 20 leads, like, we can't, like, now you can listen in, you can be there with them, you can, you guys can three-way call, but, like, we're going to have them do it because, like, we want to make sure we don't, like, ruin any over the phone, okay? So it's kind of like when you're calling for Cutco demos, like, when a new rep calls through Rex, like, you're typically going to, like, burn a couple, like, messing up a little bit, right? And there's just, like, certain things you don't want to say. So, like, we're going to be looking for a 4-month lease, okay? Like, 3 to 4 month lease. So, like, we don't want you to say that over the phone, kind of like how you don't say, hey, do you want to buy some of my expensive knives over the phone, right? Like, same thing we don't say. Like, you guys tracking with me here? So we do have a script that we follow, and your DMs have done this, so we'll do that. You're certainly welcome to be a part of the process of calling the leads. We'll just, yeah. And we might even do something like, hey, we want you to listen to 10 calls, and then you role play through it, and we feel comfortable, and then we'll let you call, a few. But we're not going to let you do it from the jump without, like, hearing it or practicing it first, okay? So if you do a 3-way call, or you come in the office and you listen in for a little bit, you feel pretty comfortable, your DM feels comfortable, they'll have you call a couple, but we're not going to let you just, like, from your dorm room call these on your own and, like, jack some of them up. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you're like more of a senior candidate, you've already had some experience with this, like, then there is a script, and we can certainly still do those same things, like do the first couple on a 3-way call or role play through first. And then if you want the experience of doing it or be a part of the process, like, absolutely. Okay. So let's talk about just briefly, in the script, what you're trying to do. So I'm not going to go through the exact thing it's written here, but you're essentially just trying to make sure it, like, you're doing a quick pre-qualifier to make sure it's, like, in the general gist, but you're really just trying to get an appointment to see the space, okay? It's kind of like a Cutco appointment. So, like, I mean, you want to rule it out if it's like, yeah, the space is 10,000 feet and it can't be chopped up at all. It's like, okay, well, that's a no. We don't need 10,000 square feet, right? Mm-hmm. Or, like, the asking price is $7,000 per month. It's like, no. Even if I'm the best negotiator in the world, like, I ain't getting it down from $7,000 to in our budget. So, like, that's going to be a no. You guys with me? But I'm asking very few questions and I'm giving very little information because my goal is just to get the appointment, right? Does this sound familiar? So they're like, okay, yeah, what kind of lease terms are you looking for? I'm not going to say, oh, yeah, I'm looking for May through August. That's not desirable for, like, someone over the phone. Now, do we do it? Every year. I've never had someone not branch because I didn't get a space. But, like, you get there and then, like, I know how to talk about it. You get what I'm saying? And a 4-month lease is better than 0, which is what they're getting right now. You know what I'm saying? So you need to get in front of, like, I'm not going to say that over the phone. Okay? So there's a script. If you're new, we're going to do it for you. If you're a senior candidate, we'll have you part of the process. We'll probably do some to start and then let you do some and kind of work together on that one, okay? What we're looking for is your question about, or comment, Paul, about branches, spaces, and DM spaces being smaller or larger. Really, it depends on the territory. It depends on the price, right? Like, there's so many factors. But essentially for a new district or for a branch, we're essentially looking for, like, ideally a 3-room setup that's somewhere in the ballpark of, like, 500 to 1,000 square feet is what we're looking for. So we're looking for one space that has, like, about, like, 400 plus square feet and then 2 smaller private offices is what we're looking for. And one can be used for your private office for interviewing, the other one for, like, receptionists, reps, whatever. We can make a 2-office setup work, right, if we needed to, like 1 private office and 1, like, general room if we needed to. But that's our ideal setup, right? Our ideal setup is kind of like what you saw Lydia's office like this summer, Paul, right? Collins is a little bit bigger. The Pilot's a little bit bigger. These aren't great examples. But, like, minimum is we need something that kind of, like, looks like this, essentially, right? Where you can run training, team meeting or whatever. You got one office here that you can meet in, one office for like receptionist or rep or storage, combination, all those sort of things, right? Could we make 2 work if we needed to? Absolutely, right? And you could always, if it's just like a door here, you could like do a partition, like Leah's office this summer was like she put in just like a partition and made it work. And like, we've done all different like spaces. She kind of just made like a little reception area, like, to that one. So it doesn't have to be perfect, like perfectly laid out like that, but that's kind of like generally like what we're looking for. Okay. Has some like questions and stuff. People say like, oh, well, what's your budget? It's kind of like, you also don't, I never answer that question too. Say, oh, well, kind of depends on the space. Right now I'm kind of just shopping around. What's the asking price on the space? Right. And I always finish with a question, and like, cause I want to see what they're asking first, and then I'll kind of like go from there. You guys with me? So in general, what we're looking for is we're going to try to get a branch. It totally depends on the territory. Okay. But we're going to try to get an office space for a branch in our ideal world that's somewhere between like $500 to $1,000 per month is what we're trying to do. Some spots that's like not even an option, right? Like it's just going to be more expensive than that. Like at Howard County, like we're not going to find an office space for $500. And so we're probably going to look more, it's probably going to end up being more like the $1,200 to $1,500 range because it's just a more expensive market, okay? And that's why we want someone with more savings to go to spots like that, okay? So it just depends, but we're going to obviously try to get the best rent, the best rent possible. In a case like Lydia's, or for those of you guys that are going to senior branch next year or be district candidates for next year, ideally is you have like $10,000 plus in savings, $15,000 plus in savings. Here's why is that sick, is we go to look for a space, and we're like, yeah, all right, sounds good. We're looking for 4 months. We'll just pay it right up front. And then you're done. You're like, that's one of the things we're going to do with Lydia. She's like $14,000 saved. I texted her yesterday like 6 a.m. or something because I was thinking of this when I was blow drying my hair. And DVM life. So I was like, let's just offer to prepay her space so we could get a sick deal, right? Like, and like how awesome is like, hey, here's all the money up front. We'll just there's no risk for them in that, right? Hey, we'll prepay up front, right, to help get her a good deal in a more competitive market, okay? So if you're like, oh my God, I don't have like 10, 15 grand saved right this second, that's fine. It's not something we've always done, but that should be your goal for next year, going out as a DM or as a senior branch. You've got it all in the mix there. So that's what we're looking at. You're not going to put, you won't like use Vector or anything like we're 1099s. So you won't put Vector on your contract. Like the lease will be in your name, or if you want to make it like Cabrera and Associates or however you want to do it, Rubin and Associates, you can. But that's what it'll look like. And essentially that's what we're looking at. So DMs, I usually look at an 18-month lease because that would have you your first summer and your second summer. And then that way you're also not looking for office space. So if you were to do 1 year, then someone would be looking for office space again before next summer, which isn't the ideal time frame. Like you want to be like focused on social jumpstart and recruiting right before the summer, not moving. Ask Colin. He did that last summer, like right before last summer. So the timing is better too, where it's like then it would be a fall move for someone. So there are differences, but typically for a DM, hey, is an 18-month lease, and that way if we need to upgrade their space, move their space, whatever, like they've at least finished their second summer, and now we can move in the fall campaign. Okay. Branches, we typically do a May 1st to August 31st. So just the summertime, those 4 months is what we're looking at. It's customary that you'll do a security deposit and first month's rent when you sign your lease and get things going, which is one of the reasons we want you guys to have some of your startup in savings so that we can do first month's rent and security deposit. Assuming you don't destroy the spot, then once you wrap up, they have, I think it's like 30 days to give you back your security deposit when you finish. Cool. So that's kind of like the quick rundown. It's not super important that I go through like every script right now because honestly, most of you guys, you're not going to use the phone script. And office shopping, we like you to come with us if you can. So like if we can go on a day where you can shop with us, like but like you'll watch us do it for the first time so that you just feel more comfortable like doing it later on. Or at least watching the first few, and then we'll let you like do them, right? If you're away at school. So for me, for example, when I was in UTM going out, I didn't see my office space. I didn't shop for my space. I didn't call one lead. Like I was graduating, and I was in Carolina, so I just did that. And someone shopped for my space for me, and my first office space was on the fourth floor of this building. And so the first day I ever saw it was when I graduated, and the next day I drove home. Or drove here to my new home, and I went upstairs and saw it. So I wasn't a part of the process just because like I physically couldn't be, and I was also like busy wrapping things up. So like I just showed up and it was done for me, which God bless, and that was that. So what I want you to focus on now is the lead generation, the finding as many options. That's really the most important thing for us right now. So let me stop there. Any questions on the lead generation, coming up with that from the start? And then I was trying to give you the general gist of like what the back end will look like, but essentially once we get all the leads, we'll start calling the leads. We'll rule out any that are like there's no way, but we'll try and see the majority of them. And what we do is we just go back to back like 15, 20-minute apart appointments. And we just go to the area and see like a gazillion spaces in one day. And ideally from that process, we're able to put in several offers. So ideally is we find like 5 or 7 spaces that would work. And we put in offers for all of them and try and just figure out which one's going to be like the best of those. Because it's like a numbers game, right? So you might put in 7 offers. You might get 2 no's. You might get 5 yeses. And then like one's like your favorite, like, or best price or whatever it is, and then we'll kind of pick from there, okay? But our goal is that we put in multiple offers for multiple seats. There's no harm in offering, okay? Nothing's official until you sign, until they sign back. So through the process, we'll coach you through, but important things in your role, lead generation, and as quickly as possible. So also know that your DMs, they have Grand Caymans coming up, then they come back, and then they go to Europe. So they're also traveling, and they also have their own summer to prep, and finding your office spaces. So if you drag your feet on putting your leads into the Google Doc, and they can't even get to it until they get back from Paris, you're already at mid-March. Then they'll start calling, then they'll start seeing spaces, then they put in offers. Like this isn't just like an overnight thing, like it's a couple steps. And then we wait to hear back from those offers, right? Then we actually get a lease. We review the lease, make sure it looks good, right? And then you need to sign the lease and they need to sign the lease for it to be like official. So if you don't have the leads, if you drag your feet on the leads, they won't track you down. They'll just work on the ones that already have entered their leads. And then our goal is that when you get to summer kickoff on I think it's 3rd and 4th, your lease is signed and secured and ready to go. So that means if you work it backwards, we need to start office searching for you guys like now. Cool? So that's what's in our schedule is like we want to start on this for you guys as soon as possible. Okay? So if you're like, oh, well, I've got time, I'm not moving until May, like I get that, what you're saying, but it doesn't work that way in terms of like working the timeline backwards. It's just a different feel. Like one of the keys to having a fast start to the summer is having your office lease secured earlier. Because once that's done, it's like we can focus on the other things instead of like, oh, where's your space going to be? And then some things are like hinged on your spot, right? Like you need to know like what office furniture to get. Well, it's easier to do it if you know the layout, right? Okay, setting up my internet installation. Well, I can do it as soon as I have an address. So you need to be proactive with the leads, but then also as we like have you do stuff, like to be able to just be kind of quick with working on it. Do you guys have checkbooks? No, probably not. Okay. One of the things I want you to put on your you don't need, like, you guys are just doing it for the summer. If you're new DM, you're just getting started. It's not super imperative. But so you don't need necessarily like a separate checking account for your branch this summer. It's going to be like 12 to 16 weeks. Like, you don't need a whole separate checking account for it. But you need to order checks. You can go online to your bank, like on your mobile app or whatever, and it'll probably be like, some would be free for like one book of them or whatever. Some are probably like $20, but you need to order a book of checks because you want to have that ready because you are going to write a check for your security deposit and for your office lease. Okay. If you're a new DM, we can talk about whether you have a separate checking account for your business or not. It's not super crucial right now, but you need to at least have like a book of checks. Okay. Any questions on that? Any questions in regards to first step of office shopping, lead generation?
So you just want the 20 leads in as soon as possible?
I want you to put them in as soon as possible. I have a checklist for you guys, like an action list leaving today. But I put on here due by February 21st. I would recommend, it's only the 8th. Like, this is something you could do, like, literally in, a little, it's not, at least to get 20 from, like, online and stuff, you can do pretty fast. Like, I would at least get started with it sooner rather than later. Now, you might not be able to drive to the territory until, like, a little bit from now, fine. But at least get the ones you can from online, like ASAP, and then you can keep building from there. Okay? So I put due February 21st at the latest for that. Okay? Good. Any other questions on that? Does that all make sense, kind of at least the general process? We'll keep walking you through as we go, but we've done this a million times, so we're like, we know the deal. So if you need help with like what area you should be looking in or whatever is fine, but for right now, goal is names of companies, owners, leads, and we'll go from there. So the Google Sheet's ready for you guys to edit. You can start doing this like as soon as today when we finish up. Okay? One other thing I'll show you is Kayla showed today like how to start checking out some of your best schools in your market, which is awesome. One of the other links that we'll have you guys work on is a Google sheet that we sent you that's called School Dates Summer 2020. And similarly, this has tabs at the bottom for each of your offices already. And it's separated into a couple categories. So it says public high schools, private high schools, colleges, universities, or like community colleges, tech schools in your area. And lastly, if you find any like job fairs or career fairs in your area to write in. So it has a spreadsheet here, and here's the reason. Here's what we're looking for: the school name, the graduation date, the graduation time and location, if you can find it too. Like rank, like if you want to put like A school, B school, or like, or you want to do like 1 through 10 or however you want to do it, but like rank so we can see your best ones. While you're looking at the site, if you see the guidance counselor or like the counselor's email, that can save you some time later on too. If you're like emailing your high schools for like lunch tables or to like advertise to their seniors, like then you're already on their website anyway. Might as well just bang out multiple things at once. So you're doing this for several reasons, okay? So your public schools, your private high schools, your colleges. So we're going to use this for a couple things. One is you want to know these dates because some of you guys could actually go to the high school graduations, either the practices or the graduations, and potentially advertise there. So like Westminster High School, I don't know if they still do, but they used to graduate at McDaniel. So like for that one, like you can't advertise like on the cars there or something like that. But I could do like graduation, like talk about maybe getting in like a business card on every seat at graduation or something with the guidance counselor or whatever. Some, like, you could actually go, like, you could go and business card, like depending on where it is, for their location. So the other reason we want to know this is like you want to know when are those high schools graduating, because as soon as if they're 17, they can start working with you as soon as they graduate. So you kind of want to know the dates of like, hey, when are my schools breaking? You know, you're gonna have two waves. For colleges, they're finishing like usually in May sometime, right? Anywhere from like early to mid to later May, like depending on the schools. Like out of state, like Florida, Carolinas, they usually finish a little early. Virginia, they usually finish a little earlier in May. Maryland is usually one of the later ones. It's usually more like a May 18th, May 20th. And then typically Maryland high schools are usually graduating like beginning, like super late May, or like really the biggest chunk is like early June. Like June 1st to June like 10th is like the majority of our graduations happen, okay? So you kind of want to know like when, you know, for your social media messaging, for scheduling people for training, like what does that look like, right? The other reason we need these school dates is because once you have them all here, you're also going to enter these into a website, and that's what we use to time your mailer advertising to your students. So for mailers, you guys know what I'm talking about when I say mailers, right? So it's the letter to students that are graduating or they're freshmen or sophomores, whatever. It's the letter that's sent to their home. Now, I know for some people are like, oh, mail, but college student or like high school seniors, they're like very attuned to the mail right now because that's where all their like college communication comes from, okay? He's doing the grad school stuff right now. So it's like my nieces that are seniors right now, it's like, right, like we get pictures in our family group text of the mail that comes in of like acceptances and whatever. So like they're very attuned to this. So we're strategically sending letters to people in your market, okay? It could be anywhere from like 4,000 letters that we send. It could be upwards of like in the pilot, we send like 40,000 letters to some of your top students, okay? So what we're trying to do is time it when we know your colleges, like we're trying to time it when they would get out, right? So we don't know where everyone goes to college, but we know like, hey, Maryland schools, they graduate, finish school this year, like around the 18th or whatever it is this year. Like we're going to probably drop most of them right in that time frame where they're finishing finals, they get home, there's a letter for them about a job. For our kids that are high school seniors, we're trying to time it so it's like right when they're graduating, like a letter shows up about summer work, because then that's when they're starting to like think like, oh shoot, I need money for college now. I need a summer job, right? So we're timing the drop of your letters of like when it arrives in home, like based on when they graduate. Cool? So those school dates, right, we're going to use to time your advertising. Myself, the region, the company, we do all of it for you, but we need you to at least just look up the dates for us and put it in the system. And then we'll do like the letter design, the envelopes, I'll help you with what quantity makes sense for your area, the zip code, the research, the picking the top, like we'll do all that stuff, but we need you to just get us the dates so we can do the right timing. Does that sound good? It's a huge undertaking. It's like DVM push. The next, okay, where do you find this? It's super easy. You just do a Google search. And like, I'll show you an example. Like, the link is in the GroupMe.
Okay, it's in the too.
Let's do, I just even looked at this the other day. High school graduation dates, Montgomery County, 2020. And then check it out, graduation schedule, Montgomery County, Maryland. Like, you click on this, and it has a chart of, like, all the graduations, the time, the day, and then the location. Isn't this awesome? So this is every high school in my territory, and I would just use this information to fill in. Now, some, like, let's say this isn't, let's say that this isn't, like, yours isn't all lined up for your, like, county or whatever like this. then you know all your schools in your area, and just go right to their website, and then just search like graduation or commencement date 2020, and it'll show you the day and time or whatever when it is. That's it. I looked up UMDs the other day, but if like for your colleges, so like UMD is like one of our schools that we pull from a lot here. So if I go to the college website, search, and like for Maryland, I just put in like academic calendar. And I go to the 2019-2020 calendar. It shows me spring. This was their first day of class. And it shows me their last day of class is May 12th, reading day on the 13th, final exams the 14th through the 20th. So the last, I'll just put it in for my colleges so I know exactly what it looks like. The reason this also matters for your colleges is so you know, like, when should you go, like, visit the school. So, like, if I finish finals on May 1st and I get back to my territory, like, I can advertise on UMD's campus in the mornings, chalk, poster, like, go get those students, like, until they get to, like, reading day and exams, essentially. And then at least I know when their exams that they're not on their normal class schedule. Does everyone see that? So you're going to use this information for multiple things. So that's what we'll put in the Google Docs so you can keep going back to it, okay? Questions on that? Yeah.
Just in general, so with saving the Google Docs, do we save it, like make a copy the same way, and then will it still share, or?
You don't need to make a copy. Like, you'll just go to your tab. So, like, if you look at school dates, for example, it has each of your territories at the bottom there.
So you'll just
you'll just scroll. Yep, you'll just use this and scroll to it, and you'll just edit your specific tab. Okay? And then as Paul is working on mailers or some of that, like, I can just, like, immediately pull it up and use it as needed, okay? You with me? Okay, and then last thing I need you guys to know is for your school dates, I need you to also enter them one other spot, which is in the GroupMe, I shared with you guys a document. I printed it out, but I printed the wrong one, so I'll show you what it looks like. But it's in the GroupMe today, and it's how to enter your school. It says like how to enter your school dates or something. Yeah, how to enter mailer profiles and school dates. So if you click on that, it tells you step by step how to enter it. It's in the GroupMe.
Oh, okay.
It's called How to Enter Your Mailer Profiles and School Dates. This is how you put it in, so we do your mailers, okay? So it shows you entering your information. So you go to ldvmdirect.com. You find your territory in the drop-down menu. Here's the password, Northeast with a 0. Profile, and that's where you're going to fill in like your first and last name and like your information and stuff there. And then you'll do your high schools and college finals. It already has all your schools in there for you once I do your zip code allocation in the next little bit. But it'll have most of them in there for you, like by default right now. And you'll go in and you'll be able to just pop your school dates in. It just has like a little calendar. It's super easy. So once you've done the research on there, like this is just like clicking on the school and putting it in. Question on that?
When should we do that? Like, is this as soon as possible, or?
Oh, this is how much I spent on daycare. I had to print it for my tax purposes. Painful. It cost me college tuition. Isn't that nuts? It was like $22,000 for the year. Or more than that, something. Maybe I mentally blocked it out. But it was over the 20s. I put on here, school dates are due by March 9th.
Okay, cool.
The sooner the better for all of us, right?
Yeah. So I have to go into my system now that I told you guys your territories. I have to like move some zip codes around a little bit. Like Harford County will be fine. Like, but for like Rubes and for Kayla, like because I like specially designed yours, you probably won't be able to enter yours yet. I'll have to go in and like swap it up a little bit first. But like Hagerstown's probably, is fine. I didn't make any changes to that. So you guys are probably the only two that I'll have to but I'll have it done in like the next little bit. And I'll let you know. Cool. So it's super easy. We're going to use it for multiple things. So look them up. Most of the time they're like kind of in a central spot. If not, you just go to the school's website and look at when their graduation commencement is for 2020. Okay. Any questions on that? Beautiful. Last couple things I have for you guys before we turn things over. I do not know how to get this to stop. Besides downloading it, I guess. Yeah. I'm like, I don't have time for that right now. The other day I went to the bathroom at the DVM. Oh, we went to lunch downstairs, and I came back, and my computer was like restarting, installing something. It was like 40 minutes. I was like, no. Okay, so last couple things I have for you guys before we bring Paul up, and then we'll be able to wrap probably a couple of minutes early here. So this is the spring schedule. I printed it out for you guys, so if you want to take a copy, I also did share it in the group Me Too, and I also passed this out at the January prep, so you won't hurt my feelings if you don't take like your third copy. But just in case. I also did print out a reminder of the savings checkpoints. These are imperative now, even more so than getting your territory, right? Is obviously what you do with your opportunity now that you have it. So just a reminder, I guess it kind of cut off here, 200 wouldn't be super fly. But the goal is to be at least at 2,000 plus in startup as soon as possible. And ideally you want more than that. You guys can probably see from what we're talking about. Like the company gives you a good amount in mailer support. They give you company startup for some things. But even for like your first month's rent in office, like we just want like some capital in there too. So the more the better, the more aggressive you can continue to be. This will be important as we office shop. It'll also be important as I make final decisions on how many mailers you can send. So I use how much you have in savings to decide how aggressive we can be about your advertising. So if you just have the minimum of 2,000, I will send the minimum amount of mailers, just because we can't go like more aggressive with that whatsoever. So I'll only do what the company covers. And so they put I think it's 2,500 towards mailers when you're a branch, just set on the top of that sheet. And so that'll typically get you like 4,000 and some change mailers. That's all I'll send because you don't really have a lot of extra here. We'll use this for like first month's rent, office rent, like give you a little like room on your own. And then the rest of the company startup that you get, we'll use towards like recruiting assistance, any other expenses and stuff that you have. If you have more in your savings, then that's where we can be a little, like we can send some extra mailers, etc. Okay? And then obviously for like our top leaders and stuff, you want to go above and beyond for those. So I've passed this out about 17 times. So, and I also did share it in the group me for an electronic copy there. Have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. But I printed out one more time just in case you want it. That's all pretty standard. We'll continue our weekly calls on Monday from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. We will have one this Monday, even though we just met this weekend, just because we have a lot, keep making progress together. We got lots of stuff going on this spring there. And we won't have a call the week that you guys are in Cayman because, like, everyone's there. So it's, like, literally our whole group. We'll meet at the pool bar or something. Like, 2 o'clock, Monday! But, yeah, so we won't do that part. But, so we'll definitely have one this week because we've got that coming up in just a couple weeks. Last thing I want to share with you guys, we've kind of been touching on these as we've gone throughout the day, but I did put together a list of just February checklist items. I actually shared this in the group me last week too. during our 2:00 session. I updated it with some social jumpstart checkpoints that I didn't have on there the last time. So I would definitely take one of these, even though I've shared it twice. Couple main things. In terms of like order of priority, social jumpstart would be the top of my game, okay? And so profile perfected, we talked about on Monday doing an audit. So now we've done the social jumpstart. We also talked to Patty and Lydia, like did a couple things today. So, do any final work on that you need to for the weekend so that we can do an audit there. Now I get we might still keep making some tweaks and adjustments, but it should be pretty good that if you haven't started friending, you could on Monday, okay? Like Lydia said, you're behind if you haven't started as soon as you got the announcement. Friending checkpoints. Here are the checkpoints that I'm going to be asking you about every week as we go through our program together and what you should expect to do. March 1st, you should be at a minimum of 500 Facebook friends to your network and at least 250 on your Instagram. By March 15th, you should be at 1,000 and then at 500 Instagram. April 1st, this is right around our summer kickoff, 1,500 and 750. And then by April 15th, 2,000 and 1,000 on Instagram. Now, these are the minimums that I'm expecting. Obviously, feel free to work ahead of this and go above and beyond. Like this is your opportunity for sure. But these are just the baseline checkpoints that we'll be working on. Okay. Any questions on those to kind of keep us on track? Pretty clear on that one? Okay. And like Lydia said, if you ever like start on something and you get like, you can't do like a ton of friend requests on Facebook for a little bit, like pivot over to Instagram. Like that's why we have, like she said, 2 platforms right now that you can kind of keep working back and forth between as we need that. Skill set focus that we talked about today. Hey, you don't have to be great at any of these. You just can't suck, right? We talked about the big 5, advertising and generating touches, which a big part of that right now is social media and starting some of our initial like high school and college research that we talked about. PR program, basic training seminar, fast start, and demo management, right? So, hey, if I'm focusing my craft in on those big things, that's what I'm focused on right now. School dates we just looked at, March 9th to have them on the Google form as well as the ldvm.com. This honestly, guys, doesn't take very long. Like you saw me pull up my whole thing. Like that whole process would maybe take me like, I don't know what, an hour to like plug it all in. It's not like super high brain power work too. So like, you can be watching something and do it. Office shopping leads, you guys can start on this. The Google Sheet is active now. It's only the 8th now, but to the 21st to get those in as soon as possible. The sooner you do it, the sooner your DMs can start working on it. I also wrote in here finishing your finals. Ideal is you're finishing your finals by May 1st. Any guesses? Why is that for your new people? I know like Kayla and Evan and, Elijah, you guys know this, but from our new guys, any guesses why you want to finish finals earlier than the rest of your graduating or your rest of your peers?
It's so that way you can you can get your office ready, and like if you haven't like already seen it, like you can get it like set up and stuff, and then also you can like just like role play, I guess, or whatever, like an interview or something, just so like you have like a dry run.
Yeah,
you get
absolutely.
Everyone gets done,
Yeah, gives you more like of a runway to get things going. Good. Any other guesses from Ruben or Paul? Why do you want to finish your finals earlier?
So you're like prepared to reach out to them right when they're done with school.
Yeah. So one is if you don't finish school till the same time that all the other college kids finish school, you probably won't recruit many of the college kids. Because it's like by the time you get done and then you start, then you get there, then right? It's like, so ideally is you're finishing by May 1st, get there, run your first interviews, get things going. And that way you can recruit those college kids as they're finishing. Especially if you go to a Maryland school and they're finishing like later on, like there's going to be Florida kids and like Carolina kids and stuff that they've been back since like the 6th or the 7th. They've already found a summer job and they didn't before you even like yeah, we're in your territory. Now, is it make or break? Like, oh my God, if there's no way I can absolutely, like, there's been plenty of examples of branches and new DMs that have been fine. Does it help you get a faster start to the summer the sooner you can be there? Absolutely, right? And the whole job of a university and college is to help to prepare their students to be successful as they graduate, right? They want you to do really well. They want your alumni money. They want the reputation. Like, they want all of those things, okay? So every single time every single year I got out of finals early in college so that I could come back to help out with like building recruiting. And I never had a problem because I just explained like what I was doing. And what you're doing is so special and so unique. And like I explained why, like, hey, I'm going to be I'm going to be interviewing and selecting and training like college students and recent graduates and high school seniors. And like, I need to get back a few days before they do, right? Or I need to get back a couple weeks before they do so I can get everything set up. There's a letter that you can edit. Heather Fitzgerald helped. Oh man, I just saw my camera angle on this thing when I turned it back on. Not good. Sorry, people. There's a Word document. Heather Fitzgerald like updated it for us. You would need to edit it. So it says like candidate's name, like school name, like in red. Like you need to change that. It's designed so you can customize it for you. But I shared that in the group meet of it's a letter to your professors to get out of finals early. But like I was talking to Rubes earlier, and she's like, I've been going to office hours and stuff. Like this would be a good conversation to have now in February with your professors, because then they know it's not like you just trying to get out of something. They know it's not last minute. Like this is well planned out. The earlier and often you talk about something, the more significant and importance it has for someone. Does that make sense? So like if I bring it to you the day before, it's like, well, how important was this to you if you didn't even like, oh, I can't come because I have my brother's graduation. Like you just found out about your brother's graduation? Like, was this really right? And it's like verse, hey, I noticed we have this going on, like, and that's the date of my brother's graduation, something really important to our family. And someone comes to me months beforehand. It's like, oh, dude, no problem, right? Like, so one is talking to them now is so important. But every professor at every school can do this. It's not that big of a deal. And so typically it's just, it's taking they send your exam to a testing center and you just take it early. Or, hey, a lot of times my grade was good enough that they were going to drop the last, one exam anyway. So it was just, hey, as long as I have a good grade in the class, they just said I just didn't need to take the exam at all. And I just made sure like I did a good job, right? Throughout the semester, keeping up with everything. So it's like, I already know I have an A. I don't stick around for 2 more weeks, right? And I would just finish it there. In some of my classes, they'd give me an alternative assignment. I'd do a presentation instead, or I'd do like a paper instead of, whatever it was or something like that. So all my professors, I just created a lot of excitement and value in what I was doing and how special it was and why I needed to just be back a little bit earlier. And I just asked for their help in coming up with some solutions and shared a couple examples of like, what we could potentially do. And all of them were like, oh my gosh, Kate, this is awesome. Like, I'm so excited for you. And they would always help me work out a game plan, So the key is not waiting super long time. Like I would start having these conversations sooner rather than later and getting them tied into to what you're doing and tied into your mission and all that sort of stuff and sharing that. And also just letting you know, like, hey, this class is obviously really important to me. My education is really important to me. Like getting a good, so I graduated with a 3.89 and I got out of class. Like I finished a little bit early every single spring. So, I wasn't sacrificing any of my grades, and my lack of a 4.0 wasn't due to that. It was for my fall semester of my freshman year. Strategic sip. Cool. I put bonus is you can start collecting office supplies, desks, some chairs, some tables. Like essentially we know what you're going to get. So, people are getting rid of stuff, or you start scoping around your house a little bit for certain things, or they give away free stuff on Craigslist all the time, especially like if offices are moving or like people are moving and they're just like, oh my God, come get it. So this is, could be something that you You can reach out to like past vector manager, whatever, but like you don't need a ton of stuff. But hey, when you already have like a few desks and some chairs and whatever, like already ready to go, it just makes it even easier. Cool. So that's what I've got. Most important is let's focus on Social Jumpstart. Of all the things, like that's the biggest right now, you know? And then, hey, can you keep making some progress on your skill? These other things, these are little like admin-y things. They're like, hey, let me put an hour in my schedule here. Let me put an hour in my schedule there. Bang out some school dates and look up some office leads. It's fun to do, which is cool. Good. Any questions on kind of like what the next several weeks look like? Our next prep we have in the schedule is for March 14th. Saturday, March 14th. Similar deal, we'll just do like new DMs, just branches, some select AM invites for that one, okay? Good. Any other last questions on that, guys?
Is the next prep going to be here